ब्रह्मानन्दं परमसुखदं केवलं ज्ञानमूर्तिं द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशं तत्त्वमस्यादिलक्ष्यम् एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वधी साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्।
Hari Om, Brahmaraji.
Yeah, Bella.
Yeah, we will start from 15th verse onwards.
Yeah.
In the chapter.
Yeah.
And I will read the complete 15th till end, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I'll be going for the Kriya just for
Yeah,
you.
I understand.
Okay, dear. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. अथ अष्टमोऽध्यायः अक्षर परब्रह्म योगो नाम मामुपेत्य पुनर्जन्म दुःखालयम् शाश्वतम् नाप्नुवन्ति महात्मानः संसिद्धिं परमां गताः आब्रह्म भुवनालोकाः पुनरावर्तिनोऽर्जुन मामुपेत्य तु कौन्तेय पुनर्जन्म न विद्यते सहस्रयुगपर्यन्तं हर्यद् ब्रह्मणो विदुः रात्रिं युगसहस्रान्तां ते होरात्रविदो जनाः अव्यक्ताव्यक्तयः सर्वाः प्रभवन्त्यः रागमे रात्र्यागमे प्रलीयन्ते तत्रैवाव्यक्तसंज्ञके भूतग्रामः स एवायं भूत्वा भूत्वा प्रलीयते रात्र्यागमे वशः पार्थ प्रभवत्यः रागमे परस्तस्मात्तु भावोऽन्यः व्यक्तो व्यक्तात् सनातनः यः स सर्वेषु भूतेषु नश्यत्सु न विनश्यति अव्यक्तोऽक्षर इत्युक्तः तमाहुः परमां गतिं यं प्राप्य न निवर्तन्ते तद्धाम परमं मम पुरुषः स परः पार्थ भक्त्या लभ्यस्त्वनन्यया यस्यान्तस्थानि भूतानि येन सर्वमिदं ततम् यत्र काले त्वनावृत्तिः आवृत्तिं चैव योगिनः प्रयाता यान्ति तं कालं वक्ष्यामि भरतर्षभ अग्निर्ज्योतिरः शुक्लः षण्मासा उत्तरायणम् तत्र प्रयाता गच्छन्ति ब्रह्मविदो तत्र प्रयाता गच्छन्ति ब्रह्मविदो जनाः धूमो रात्रिस्तथा कृष्णः षण्मासा दक्षिणायनम् तत्र चान्द्रमसं ज्योतिः योगी प्राप्य निवर्तते शुक्लकृष्णे गतिहेते जगतः शाश्वते मते एकया यात्यनावृत्तिः अन्यया वर्तते पुनः नैते श्रुतिपार्थ जानन योगी मुह्यति कश्चन तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु योगयुक्तो भवार्जुन वेदेषु यज्ञेषु तपस्सुश्चैव दानेषु यत् पुण्यफलं प्रदिष्टम् अत्येति तत्सर्वमिदं विदित्वा योगी परं स्थानमुपैति चाद्यम् ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुन संवादे अक्षरपरब्रह्मयोग नाम अष्टमोऽध्यायः ॐ तत्सत् अथ नवमोऽध्यायः श्रीभगवानुवाच इदं तु ते गुह्यतमं प्रवक्ष्याम्यनसूयवे ज्ञानं विज्ञानसहितं यज्ज्ञात्वा मोक्ष्यसे शुभात् Hari Om. So yesterday we had seen about the Uttarayana and Dakshinayana. The Kramagati I had seen. I will just repeat the meaning of verse 25th. The yogi traveling by the route where the presiding deity of smoke, similarly the god of night, the god of the dark fortnight, and the god of the 6 months, when the sun is traveling south, are present, having gained the world of moon returns. So from Chandraloka also, once the punya gets exhausted, or whatever karma they get exhausted, they have to come back. The idea of the verse is that one travels. Death does not give you moksha. Only knowledge can do that. And if it is not gained, you embark upon these two paths after death. I repeat, there must be a breaking of voice. The idea of the verse is that one travels. Death does not give you moksha. Only knowledge can do that. And if it is not gained, you embark upon these two paths after death. But these are only the good paths. There are others which are not so good. There is even a naraka, a place where you undergo a certain pain. That is also karma phala. And when it is exhausted, you return. Karma phala cannot be eternal. So even from a painful loka, you will return. Here he talks only about desirable ends. Even from them, you return. So there is only through the knowledge. Knowing is being. So once there is a knowledge, you become that, you recognize you are already that Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa, then there is a direct liberation. There is direct, there is no, and when there is confusion, Then there will be Uttarayan and Dakshinayanam. From where there also, if there is Uttarayanam, if in Brahmaloka, if the knowledge is the Atma Jnana is given by Shri Brahmaji, then there is no return. But otherwise, if it is just good punya and through that you have reached Brahmaloka, then again once the punya gets exhausted, one has to come back. Anyone wants me to repeat any paragraph before we go to the next words? Shukla Krishne gati yete jagat shashvate mate ekaya yatyana vrittim anyaya vartate punaha. He, as is well known, jagatah of the world, ete gati, these two paths, Shukla Krishna, the bright and the dark, Shashvate Mati, are considered eternal. Ekaya, traveling by one, Anavruttim Yati, one goes to a place of no return. Anyaya, by the other, Avartate Punaha, one returns again. He Jagatah Ete Gati Shukla Krishne Shashvate Mate Ekaya Anavrittim Yati Anyaya Avartate Punaha. As is well known, these two paths of the world, the bright and the dark, are considered eternal. By the one path, one goes to a place of no return. By the other, one returns again. I repeat, as is well known, these two paths of the world, the bright and the dark, are considered eternal. By the one path, one goes to a place of no return. By the other, one returns again. Shukla Krishna Gati Hi Ete Jagataha. These two paths by which one gains various ends are called as Shukla, the bright path, and Krishna, the dark path. He here indicates as it is known in the Shastra. Shastra is the only means of knowing them. Jagat means world, and here it stands for the world of people, the meditators, and those who do good actions. For such people who are qualified to do karma, there are these two paths available. Shashvate Mate, they are considered eternal. These paths are relatively eternal because samsara can go on indefinitely. Unless you gain moksha, it does not come to an end. You have to put an end to it by knowing the truth about yourself. So, when we say that these two paths are eternal, the idea is that there is no natural liberation. You must have a desire to know, and until that happens, samsara continues. For the jiva who is ignorant, samsara seems eternal. Ekaya yati anavrittim anyaya avartate punaha. By one path, he goes to an end from where there is no return. Anavritti. That is the Shuklagati, whereby he reaches Brahmaloka and there being taught by Brahmaji gains moksha. If he goes by the other, the Dhuma or Krishna Gati, he comes back. Between the two paths, one would naturally want to choose the bright one, which leads to moksha. Moksha, however, is gained not by a path, gati, but by knowledge. This Bhagavan shows in the next verse. If you want me to repeat any paragraph, do let me know. I think this is very clear, right? Because we have already seen in depth about the Krishna Gati and Shukla Paksha Gati. नैते श्रुति पार्थ जानन् योगी मुह्यति कश्चन तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु योगयुक्तो भवार्जुन. Partha, O son of Pritha Arjuna, Kashyan yogi, a yogi, ete sriti, these two paths, janan, knowing, na muhyati, is not deluded. Tasmat, therefore, Arjuna, O Arjuna, sarveshu kaleshu, at all times, yoga yuktaha, united to or endowed with the practice of yoga, bhava, may you be. Partha, Kashyan yogi, ete sriti, janan na muhyati, tasmat Arjuna, sarveshu kaleshu, yoga yuktaha bhava. So beautiful. Knowing these two paths, O Pritha, O Partha, a yogi is not deluded. Therefore, at all times, may you be united to yoga, Arjuna. I repeat, knowing these two paths, O Partha, a yogi is not deluded. Therefore, at all times, may you be united to yoga, Arjuna. Na ete shriti partha janan yogi muhyati kaschana. O Arjuna, knowing these two paths, a yogi does not get deluded. The yogi here is a viveki or a jignashu. He is not at all deluded about these two paths because he knows one is for samsara, the other is for moksha. He has no confusion about the fact that gaining another loka does not give you liberation. Freedom comes only by knowledge, which can be gained here or in Brahmaloka. The whole of humanity suffers from this delusion that going to heaven is moksha. It is methodically propagated by all religions and is so prevalent in humanity that Krishna had to state it explicitly as a delusion. A Viveki or yogi is not deluded about this at all. I repeat, this is very important paragraph. Please pay attention. Na ete shriti partha janan yogi muhyati kashana. O Arjuna, knowing these two paths, a yogi does not get deluded. The yogi here is a viveki or a jignashu. He is not at all deluded about these two paths because he knows one is for samsara, the other is for moksha. He has no confusion about the fact that gaining another loka does not give you liberation. Freedom comes only by knowledge, which can be gained here or in Brahmaloka. The whole of humanity suffers from this delusion that going to heaven is moksha. It is methodically propagated by all religions and is so prevalent in humanity that Krishna had to state it explicitly as a delusion. A Viveki or yogi is not deluded about this at all. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu yoga yuktaha bhava Arjuna. Therefore, O Arjuna, equip yourself for this knowledge at all times. I repeat, O Arjuna, equip yourself for this knowledge at all times. Whatever is necessary for knowledge, please do. Yoga here is knowledge, preceded by purification of the mind, antahkarana shuddhi. Knowledge is yoga, and any means that helps you gain it is also called yoga. Very beautiful paragraph. I read once again. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu yoga yuktah bhava Arjuna. Therefore, O Arjuna, equip yourself for this knowledge at all times. Whatever is necessary for knowledge, please do. Yoga here is knowledge, preceded by purification of the mind, antahkarana shuddhi. Knowledge is yoga, and any means that helps you gain it is also called yoga. So beautiful. Anyone wants to share, please? Lastly, the glory of this yoga is told. Vedeshu yagneshu tapassu chaiva daneshu yat punya phalam pradishtam atyeti tat sarvamidam viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chadhyam. Yogi, the yogi, idam viditva, knowing this, yat punya phalam, the result of good actions, which Vedeshu, with regard to Veda, study of the Vedas, Yagneshu, in rituals, Tapasu, in disciplines, Cha eva, and as well, Daneshu, in charity, Shastrena, by the Shastra, there is a footnote. This word is understood here, therefore added to complete the meaning. So in the Shastra Vakya, Shastrena, by the Shastra, Pradishtam is ordained. Tat sarvam punya phalam, all that punya phalam. Atyeti, crosses, goes beyond. Adyam, the primal cause. Paramasthanam, which is the highest state. Upaiticha, and he reaches. Yogi idam viditva yat punya phalam vedeshu yagneshu tapassu cha eva daneshu shastrena pradishtam tat sarvam punya phalam atyeti adyam paramasthanam upaiti cha. The yogi, knowing this, the answers to Arjuna's questions in verse 8.1 and 8.2, that is the beginning, goes beyond all things taught by the Shastra with reference to the result of good actions, which abides in the study of the Veda, the rituals, disciplines, and charities. And he reaches the primal cause of creation, which is the highest state. I repeat, the yogi, knowing this, the answers to Arjuna's questions in the first and second verse of chapter 8, goes beyond all things taught by the Shastra with reference to the result of good actions, which abides in the study of the Veda, the rituals, disciplines, and charities. And he reaches the primal cause of creation, which is the highest state. I hope you remember the questions. I will just read those two questions which Arjuna began. Arjuna uvacha kim tad brahma kim adhyatmam kim karma purushottama अधिभूतं च किं प्रोक्तम् अधिदैवं किमुच्यते अधियज्ञ कथं पुत्र देहेऽस्मिन् मधुसूदन प्रयाणकाले च कथं ज्ञेयोऽसि नियतात्मभिः. So he had asked for the gati and everything in the question, and Bhagwan had beautifully answered in the last two shlokas. There are two sentences here. I'm reading the text. There are two sentences here. Knowing this, the yogi crosses all that. Yogi idam viditva tat sarvam atyeti is one sentence. The other is he reaches the highest place, the primal cause of creation. Param adyam sthanam upaiti. वेदेषु यज्ञेषु तपःषु च एव दानेषु प्रदिष्टां यत् punyaphalam. The punya that is ordained by the Shastras as a result of the study of the Vedas, performing of various rituals, austerities, and charities. These are all the ways by which one gathers punya phala. Simply studying the Veda is a punya karma, and besides that, there are many rituals mentioned there which, if performed, bring punya phala. The emphasis is both on the study of the Veda and the performance of rituals. Tapas is following various religious disciplines. Dana is giving time, expertise, or money to others. All these produce adrishta phala, which is not immediately seen by you but is credited to your account and reaped either in this life itself or later in other life. So here Bhagavan has summarized whatever he had talked. So by various means like performing rituals, austerities and charities also, you gathered the punya karma phala, and that according to that, even through charity and tapas, through various nidhi dhyasana, through various contemplation, through various sadhanas, you get good punya phala, and accordingly you will reach the highest place. Yogi idam viditva tat sarvam atyeti. Knowing this, the answers to Arjuna's questions in the first and second verses of this chapter, the yogi grows out of the limited means and ends. He goes for the total freedom, which is knowing oneself as the limitless Brahman, which is the Lord. So yogi achieves he recognizes and he becomes that Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa, and he gets the total freedom. Param Sthanam Upaiti Cha Adyam. And he gains the status of Ishvara, which is the highest status one can reach. Adya is what is in the beginning, the cause of creation. Only Brahman was there in the beginning, then Brahman created the entire world. And Brahman is in the form of this world. The cause is very important here. If it is Satya, the product becomes Mithya, because there is no product separate from its cause. When the cause is Satya, the product continues to be Brahman. Therefore, if one understands the nature of Brahman, the creation, which includes oneself, Ishvara, the first cause, Adyam, Karanam, and understand that I am everything, all these lokas, have no meaning. Then one understands that I am that Brahman, and understanding that one gains that ultimate. And I repeat this last paragraph. It is so beautiful about the Shastra Vakya, Aham Brahmasmi. I will repeat the last paragraph. Param sthanam uppaiti cha adyam. And he gains the status of Ishvara, which is the highest status one can reach. Adya is what is in the beginning, the cause of creation. Only Brahman was there in the beginning, then Brahman created the entire world. And Brahman is in the form of this world. The cause is very important here. If it is Satya, the product becomes Mithya, because there is no product separate from its cause. When the cause is Satya, the product continues to be Brahman. Therefore, if one understands the nature of Brahman, the creation, which includes oneself, Ishvara, the first cause, Adyam Karanam, and understand that I am everything. All these lokas have no meaning. Then one understands that I am that Brahman, and understanding that one gains that ultimate. And Om Tat Sat iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita su Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjun Samvade Akshara Parabrahma Yogo Nama Ashtamodhyayah. Thus ends the 8th chapter, that is called Akshara Brahma Yoga in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which is likened to the Upanishads, whose subject matter is Brahma Vidya, which is also a Yoga Shastra. There is another footnote. Here the word yoga refers to anything a person needs in terms of preparation of the mind, antahkarana shuddhi, etc., that is needed for the assimilation of this knowledge. Since the Gita discusses all this along with the Brahma Vidya, it is also referred to as a Yoga Shastra. I repeat, it is very important footnote. Here, the word yoga refers to anything a person needs in terms of preparation of the mind, antahkarana shuddhi, etc., that is needed for the assimilation of this knowledge. Since the Gita discusses all this along with the Brahma Vidya, it is also referred to as a Yoga Shastra. So I repeat once again, thus ends the 8th chapter, that is called Akshara Brahma Yoga in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which is likened to the Upanishads, whose subject matter is Brahma Vidya, which is also a Yoga Shastra, which is in the form of a dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna. Om Tat Sat. If you want me to repeat any paragraph, do let me know. And in 5
Bella,
or
I'll
10
take
minutes.
over. You will have to leave, I think.
Yeah, I can, I mean, if you want to repeat any paragraph, if someone wants, then.
No problem. I'm sharing the screen. So,
Dhanyavad.
so what I would suggest is I think we'll chant the 8th chapter once. Maybe all of us can just chant in we keep ourselves muted and we'll chant it once. And then we'll do a manana of what the whole gist of the 8th chapter is. We have about half an hour today. So I think that is what I would suggest. If anybody else has any suggestion.
Hari Om Brahmaraji.
Yes,
Just one suggestion: if there is chapter 6, little more depth can be brought because it is so much in line with our chapter 8.
Chapter 6,
So
right?
after the contemplation on whatever we did today,
yeah.
after that we can move. If there is more time, then we can give more time to that chapter 6.
In that case, what we'll do is we'll just I will just chant the last few shlokas that we did today. We'll do manana on that, and then we'll go to chapter 6. I think today we started from verse number 24. Actually, I'll go to 20.
25th we started, but you can go
I will do 24 downwards. Agni-jyotirah shuklaha shanmasa uttarayanam tatra prayata gachanti brahma vido janaha. Where in which path? The god of fire or time, the god of light or time, the god of the day, the god of the fortnight of the waxing moon, the god of the 6 months of the sun's travel towards the north are present. Departing there, through that path, meditators of Brahman go to Brahmaloka. Dhumo ratristatha Krishnaha Shanmasa Dakshinayanam Tatra Chandramasam Jyotihi Yogi Prapya Nivartate. The yogi traveling by the route where the presiding deity of smoke, similarly the god of night, the god of the dark fortnight, and the god of the 6 months when the sun is traveling south are present, having gained the world of the moon, returns. Shukla Krishne Gati Hyete Jagata Shashvate Mate Ekayayatya Vrittihi Anyaya Vartate Punaha. All is well known. These two parts of the world, the bright and the dark, are considered eternal. By the one path, one goes to a place of no return. By the other, one returns again. Naite sriti partha janan yogi muhyati kaschana tasmat sarveshu kaleshu yoga yukto bhavarjuna. Knowing these two paths, O Partha, a yogi is not deluded. Therefore, at all times, may you be united to yoga, Arjuna. Vedeshu yajneshu tapassu chaiva daneshu yat punya phalam pradishtam atyeti tat sarvamidam viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. The yogi, knowing this, that is, the answers to Arjuna's questions in 8.1 and 8.2, goes beyond all things taught by the Shastra with reference to the result of good actions, which abides in the study of the Veda, the rituals, disciplines, and charities. And he reaches the primal cause of creation, which is the highest state. So he goes even beyond the things taught by the Shastra. We require the Shastra to to get to that antakarana shuddhi. But ultimately, you go even beyond that knowledge. I think I will just read the last shloka one more time. There are two sentences here. Knowing this, the yogi crosses all that. Yogi idam viditva tat sarvam atyeti is one sentence. The other is he reaches the highest place, the primal cause of creation, param adyam sthanam upaiti. Vedeshu yagneshu tapashu chaiva daneshu pradishtam yat punya phalam. The punya that is ordained by the Shastras as a result of the study of the Vedas, performing of various rituals, austerities, and charities. These are all the ways by which one gathers punya phala. Simply studying the Veda is a punya karma. And besides that, there are many rituals mentioned there, which if performed bring punya phala. The emphasis is both on the study of the Veda and the performance of rituals. Tapas is following various religious disciplines. Dana is giving time, expertise, or money to others. All these produce adrishta phala, which is not immediately seen by you, but is credited to your account and reaped either in this life itself or later in another life. Yogi idam viditva tat sarvam atyeti. Knowing this, that is the answers to Arjuna's questions in the first and second verses of this chapter, the yogi grows out of the limited means and ends. He goes for the total freedom, which is knowing oneself as the limitless Brahman, which is the Lord. Param sthanam upaiti cha adyam, and he gains the status of Ishvara, which is the highest status one can reach. Adya is what is in the beginning, the cause of creation. Only Brahman was there in the beginning. Then Brahman created the entire world. And Brahman is in the form of this world. The cause is very important here. If it is Satya, the product becomes Mithya because there is no product separate from its cause. When the cause is Satya, the product continues to be Brahman. Therefore, if one understands the nature of Brahman, the creation, which includes oneself, Ishvara, the first cause, Adyam Karanam, and understand that I am everything, all these lokas have no meaning. Then one understands that I am that Brahman, and understanding that one gains that ultimate end. Let's close our eyes and reflect on what we've learned and understood, and we'll come up with our takeaways. Jai Gurudev. So I think this last two paragraphs actually. In fact, the last verse is so profound in that, although a lot of description is given upon the Uttara Marga and Dakshina Marga, the path of light and the path of smoke, all that comes to no meaning actually, so to say, when you come from the space that once you realize that Brahman is the cause of everything. So since he is the cause, any product that comes out of that is mithya. So the whole world, universe is mithya, but the universe also is Brahman, because there is no difference. The product is not different from the cause. So when you understand this, all that adibhutam, adiyajnam, adidaivam, all that merges. There is only one. That is Brahman. Sarvamidam Brahman. And once you realize that, all these lokas actually have no meaning. Although you gain punya by studying the Vedas, by doing dana, doing tapas. And dana here is not just giving money and food, it is also giving your expertise, time. So you develop, you gain adrishta phala, and with that you, which is, you will reap it either here or later. And slowly with that adrishta phala, a person who is not on the path, the turning point comes when he takes to the moksha marg. He even starts thinking about what is the purpose of my life, what is it, I want to gain this freedom. When that mumukshitvam dawns, that is when his direction of life takes a turn for the better. And it's a process of continuous evolution, although he needs to put in that effort. Otherwise, there's the samsara marg is also apparently eternal. He will continue to keep coming back into the cycle of samsara. Yeah, anyone wants to share, please go ahead. When the cause is satya, the product is mithya. Like, for example, you are the dreamer. When you go to bed and you have a dream, the dream that is created is coming from you. So you are part of the dream. The whole dream is you. So the waker is the satya there. The dream is the creation. That becomes mithya the moment you wake up. Similarly, a pot and a clay and clay. So of course, here you cannot say pot is mithya, because here you're talking of in a different parlance altogether. But then the clay is in and through every bit of the pot, which is how Brahman is there in every aspect of creation. Chara, achara, both moving, immobile things. Chara, chara. And yoking ourselves to this knowledge, to this yoga, this yoking ourselves to this will help us attain the highest end. Yeah. So is there anyone else who wants to share anything? Or should we go to chapter 6 today? We have a lot of time today.
Hari Om Brahmaraji. Could you please just tell more about the space within the pot, which gives the identification of pot as a pot? The space within and the space outside. Is it the same substratum, which is again the cause for the, because clay and space are two different things, right? Again, it will become a duality.
Correct. The pot and the clay example is more to bring in the aspect of that isness, no? So supposing the clay, the pot is created by the clay. You create a pot with the clay. So when the pot is, the when you destroy the pot, the mud is. When you destroy the mud, you're not destroy, you're going further and further. So that isness is the satya. That is one aspect of this example of the clay and the pot. The other aspect that you brought about the space is to say that the adhisthana, the substratum is the space. So you create a pot, but when the where is the pot? The pot is in space. So when you destroy the pot, the pot gets destroyed, but the space remains. So that substratum is ultimately the it's on that field in which everything else is created. Like if you consider space here in this example, the pot and the space, if you consider space as Brahman, the creator, Ishvara, the creator, he runs in and through the pot. So it is something which is imperishable. That Satya. Whether the pot is or not, the space is. So before the pot came, the space is. When the pot is there, the space continues to be there inside the pot. And when the pot is not there anymore, space continues. So this pot clay example is given in two different contexts, I think. I think we need to understand in what context it is being said. But the space aspect is to understand that is the basis of all creation.
Yeah,
there you cannot say clay and space. How come it's clay is the cause for the pot? No. There, the clay aspect is to just say that when even the clay,
the material cause.
the material cause.
Yeah, and that is the substratum. The space is the substratum, which doesn't change or which, yeah, so beautiful. And in the last line, the preparation of the mind, it is so very important. Otherwise, there will be always the confusion between the knowledge and the being. As we already, we always have that question: how can we be that? We have the knowledge, but how can we be that? In the footnote, the last sloka, there is a footnote. The preparation of the mind.
Yeah.
And here the importance of our sadhana, seva and satsang, they really play very important role. Otherwise, we will stay in a dilemma that how can I be that? It's very beautiful.
Very true. Here the word yoga refers to anything a person needs in terms of preparation of the mind, antakarana shuddhi, that is needed for the assimilation of this knowledge. Since the Gita discusses all these along with the Brahma Vidya, it's also referred to as a Yoga Shastra, because it gives us the blueprint on which to work towards this. So this Vedeshu Yajneshu Tapassu Chaiva, with the study, the punya that you get by the study of the Vedas, performing various rituals, austerities, charities, is important to create this antakarana shuddhi, to bring in this antakarana shuddhi. So there is a little bit of doing that is required, a little bit of knowing, but ultimately you have to come to the being, where you drop both the doing and the knowing and just settle down in the being. That is total freedom. So we'll go to chapter 6. Just chapter 6, we completed verse 29. I think we are in verse 30.
Yes, Brahmaraji. Yesterday I just read little bit about the verse 30.
Okay, so should we just do the 30 one more time a little bit and then go to?
Yeah, please.
Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mayi pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sacha me na pranashyati. The one who sees me in all beings and sees all beings in me, for him or her, I am not remote, and he or she is not remote from me. The vision of Atma given in the previous verse is restated using a different language in the first line of this verse. The earlier expression, Sarva Bhutastam Atmanam, is put into the first person here, the one who recognizes me in all beings. Yaha mam pashyati sarvatra. Me does not, of course, refer to the person occupying the driver's seat of Arjuna's chariot named Krishna. Seated in the chariot, the person, Krishna, seems to have a definite location, and yet, when talking to Arjuna, he refers to himself as one who is everywhere. Sarva Bhutastha Atma. Wherever there is a Bhuta, a being, it has its being in me alone. This me is Atma. Thus, by replacing the words Sarva Bhutastha Atmanam with Mam, meaning Ishvara, Krishna quietly brings out the non-difference between Ishvara and the individual, Jiva. The one who sees me, Ishvara, in all beings, meaning as the Adhishtana, the basis of all beings, knows himself or herself to be that same Ishvara, Paramatma, being non-separate from Atma. So in verse 29, he says, Sarva Bhutastamatmanam Sarva Bhutani Chatmani Ikshate Yoga Yuktatma Sarvatra Samadarshanaha. where he's saying the one who sees himself in everyone, in all beings, and all beings in himself. He is the one who has the Samadarshana. He's talking of the first person there. But here in verse 30, he's saying, Yomam Pashyati Sarvatra. Now he's bringing it to whoever sees me in everything, in every being. That me there is not Krishna with the peacock feather driving Arjuna's chariot, but that Mam is Ishvara, Parabrahma or Paramatma. So therefore he's bringing in that beautiful connect between the Jiva and the Atma. In the first 29th shloka, he's talking about the Jiva. He's talking about you or me, everybody. But here he's talking about himself as Parabrahma. So therefore he's equating Jiva and Brahma. Krishna also says here that everything is in me alone. Sarvam cha mai eva. I am the Karana, the cause for everything. I am the Adhishtana for everything, the basis for everything. Thus, the person being discussed here recognizes himself or herself in all beings and all beings in the self alone. The only difference between this verse and the previous verse then is that the word Atma has been replaced by the first person, Mam, me. Between the me in the present verse and Atma in the previous verse, there is no difference whatsoever. One who sees Atma in everything and everything in Atma recognizes Ishvara. Me in everything and everything in me. I am the one who is the basis of all beings, and in me all the beings have their being, their existence. So if we correlate this paragraph to the last but one paragraph in chapter 8 that we just read, where he talks about Satya. So Satya is the cause of everything. And anything that is a cause of, that comes out as a product of Satya is Mithya. So therefore, when you look at that, Satya runs in and through that Mithya as well. So when you come to that understanding, then you'll see that Brahman is Satya and everything created by him is Mithya. So he is in and through everything. So that Sarvatra Samadarshana, that bhava will come up, where you see Brahman alone in everything. Just like how the gopis saw Krishna everywhere, in whatever they saw Krishna. Can Ishvara be a separate entity between Ishvara, Krishna and Jiva, the individual? There is no difference whatsoever. Is there another Ishvara? Since Ishvara is everything, how can he be separate from consciousness, Chaitanya, that is the Atma? Since Ishvara is everything, how can he be separate from consciousness, Chaitanya, that is the Atma? If Chaitanya Atma is limitless, that is Brahman, then there is no way another being called Ishvara can be standing separately somewhere. If this were the case, Ishvara would become just another guy. Then there would be a difference between Jiva and Ishvara that could never be resolved, because then there'll be two separate entities. How will you How will you unite the two? There are various contentions in terms of Ishvara, the Lord, and the individual, which have to be analyzed to see if there is any truth in them. Suppose you say, as some do, that the Lord is everywhere and I am a fraction of that Lord. Does this mean that all these fractions together make the Lord? If not, what does it mean? What is the fraction? Please tell me. Is your physical body the fraction? Is your mind the fraction? Or, one second, can you just mute yourself? Yeah. Is your mind the fraction, or is Atma Chaitanya the fraction? And in all of this, what is dependent on what? What is the reality of what? What is the reality of this physical body, this mind, etc.? When you analyze them all, you find only one existence, Satya. And the Swarupa of this Satya is nothing but Param Brahma, which is Chaitanya Atma. When the Shastra talks of Ishvara, it is from one particular standpoint. All that is there is Parameshvara alone. Jiva is also just a standpoint. Only from a particular standpoint is there a difference between Jiva and Ishvara. From the standpoint of the Upadhi, there is Jiva and there is Ishvara. The resolution of the two takes place only in the appreciation of the essential Paramatma, the Satya Vastu. So it is actually not technically right when we say I am part of Ishvara, because it's not a fraction. You are Ishvara, you are Brahman, right? Therefore, when the Lord says, I am the Lord, Aham Ishvaraha, and the Jiva says, I am an individual, Aham Jivaha, the Aham is common and the difference is Mithya. 1 minute. Meaning that it is entirely dependent upon Satya. I will read this again. Therefore, when the Lord says, I am the Lord, Aham Ishvaraha, and the Jiva says, I am an individual, Aham Jivaha, the Aham is common and the difference is Mithya. Meaning that it is entirely dependent upon Satya. The problem is the difference, because being dependent upon Satya, Mithya is not another thing. The whole Jagat is Mithya, depending upon the Satya Vastu for its existence. And the Satya Vastu is what is referred to by everyone as I, Aham. Therefore, anyone who says I, including a mosquito, is Param Brahma alone. You are not I and Param Brahma. You are only Param Brahma. So wonderful. So there are no two things like Jiva and Param Brahma. It is only in the aspect of the Upadhi that Jiva is like an Upadhi there. Like the pot is the Upadhi for the clay. It's a superimposition on the clay. The rope on the snake, the snake on the rope, the universe on Brahman. So the whole universe is Mithya, which is a superimposition upon the Satya Vastu, which is Brahman. So you can't say universe is separate, Brahman is separate. No. Brahma runs in and through the universe. The universe is dependent on Brahman. Brahman is not dependent on the universe. Brahman is the Satya Vastu, which is independent. But the universe has no existence apart from the Brahman. Even the person who does not know is Param Brahma. The statement Tat Tvamasi means you are Param Brahma right now. It is not something that you become later. Shruti does not say, ye shall become. It says, that thou art, Tat Tvam Asi. The sentence is possible only when the self is already Brahman, which is the vision unfolded in the previous verse and restated in the first line of the present verse. The one who sees me in all beings and all beings in me. Yaha mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati. This person is one who has the vision of the oneness of Atma. Seeing Atma in all beings and all beings in Atma is the vision. this is so wonderful. When you have this vision, then automatically there is no, the meaning of everything else comes down. It just dissolves. There is no need for you to see, opposite values are complementary, or accept people, situations. Do not see intention, because everything is just you. So these knowledge points are required for us to bring ourselves to this point of sarvatra samadarshana. The result of the vision. And what is the result of this vision? Here, Krishna uses the first person. Here, the first person indicates that Krishna is talking as Ishvara. He says, for the person having this vision, I will not become remote. Tasyaham na pranashyami. Meaning that I will no longer be something known only indirectly to the person. Why? Because Ishvara is Atma. I do not become an indirect object of worship that is sitting somewhere. I do not become someone who is away from the person, because Ishvara is oneself, Atma. And not only that, the person also does not go away from me. Sachamena pranashyati. I do not become remote for the person, and the person does not go away from me. This fact was already there, but previously the person did not know it. We are all in that boat. We don't know it. And now he or she knows. This is not something that just happened because of some interference on the part of the Lord. It was true before and it was true now. It is true now. All that has happened is that the person did not know it before, and now he or she knows. The person now sees himself or herself in all beings, and all beings in the self. A person of this vision never goes away from me, meaning there is no distance between me and the person. Neither the person goes away from me, nor I go away from the person. I do not become remote for the person, and he or she does not become remote for me. This means that previously there was a certain remoteness, and Ishvara Paramatma was something that was sought after. Ishvara was someone whose grace was invoked, etc. Now all the prayers and rituals have paid off. The payoff is the vision that between Jiva and Ishvara there is no difference. The difference is all resolved. This is what is meant here by the statement, Tasya aham na pranashyami. I do not become something that is away for this person, nor is the person away from me. The Lord is usually presented as though he is behind a veil, and that he can see us, but we cannot see him. Therefore, the Lord is someone who always seems to be looking into your private affairs. But here in this verse, Krishna is saying that the Lord has no veil or cover that prevents you from seeing him. Ignorance is the only veil there is, and that covering has already been removed. Therefore, there is no obstacle. There is only one vision, the vision of the Paramatma, the whole. Everything resolves into this one Atma alone. Shall I continue further? I am everything. Elsewhere, Shankara says, in half a verse, I shall explain what has been said before by millions of words and texts. Ardha shlokena pravakshami yaduktam grantha koti bihi. And having already used one half of a verse to say this much, he completes the verse by saying, Brahman is Satya And the whole world, Jagat, is Mithya. Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya. And Jiva is non-separate from Brahman. Jivaha Brahmaiva na aparaha. This means that the body, mind, and senses are also Mithya. And the Jiva, that is other than the physical body, mind, and senses, that is Atma, is Brahman. This means that I am everything. Idam sarvam ahamasmi. So, Ardha Shlokena Pravakshami Yaduktam Grantha Koti Vihi. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. I mean, this verse is worth memorizing and bringing to our awareness all the time and again, time and again. Ardha Shlokena Pravakshami Yaduktam Grantha Koti Vihi. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. This vision then is the vision that resolves the difference between the Jiva and Ishvara, which is why Ishvara is never remote from you, nor are you ever away from him. There is no difference other than what is caused by ignorance. Ignorance being removed, all that is there is one flame of consciousness in which everything exists, everything that is inquired into, everything that is not inquired into. The known and the unknown all exist in Atma alone. The Atma of Ishvara and the Atma of the Jiva is one and the same. Same Atma whose Swarupa is consciousness. This consciousness, this Atma alone is self-existent. The whole, which is Ishvara, which is the Jiva. Should we go to chapter Shloka 31? Further, Krishna continues, Sarva Bhuta Sthitam Yomam Bhajatyekatvam Sarvatha Vartamanopi Sayogi Mai Vartate. Yaha, the one who, Ekatvam, oneness, Astitaha, San, Astitaha, San, that is having gained, Sarva Bhuta Sthitam, abiding in all beings, Mam, me, Bhajati, gains the vision, Saha Yogi, that yogi, Sarvatha, in whatever way, Vartamanaha, remaining, Api, even, Mai, in me, Vartate, abides. Yaha ekatvam astitah san sarva bhutastitam mam bhajati saha yogi sarvatha vartamanaha api mai vartate. The one who gains the vision, having gained the oneness of me, abiding in all beings, that yogi abides in me, whatever he or she does. This verse continues to discuss the person who has the vision of the oneness of Atma in all beings, who knows that Atma is himself or herself alone and is therefore not separate from Ishvara. Such a person knows himself or herself to be Ishvara in fact. All this is restated here. So it's just like a repetition of the whole idea again. Mam sarva bhuta sthitam yo bhajati. This refers to the one who gains the vision, that is, the one who has this vision of Ishvara as that which abides in all beings. Therefore, the self is non-separate from Parameshvara. The vision that is gained is in terms of the oneness of Atma, the oneness of Atma that is never divided. that is the undivided whole. And the one who recognizes Ishvara in this undivided form, ekatvam astitaha, the one who gains this vision of Ishvara, that yogi, however he or she may live, remains with Ishvara. Sarvatha vartamanaha api saha yogi mai vartate. Thus, Krishna says, the person remains in me alone. This verse answers the question of whether, having gained the vision, it can ever be lost. I am often asked, Swamiji, suppose a person gains this vision, is it not possible that living in the day-to-day world of duality, the person can lose the Atma? No, Krishna says here. Whatever the person does, whatever happens to the person, seeing, hearing, talking, walking, in whichever way he or she happens to live, whether as a brahmachari, a grahastha, or a sannyasi, whether a man or a woman, young or old, sarvata vartamanaha api, the vision remains. The stage of life the person is in, or the profession he or she happens to be pursuing, is all because of the person's prarabdha. In fact, there is nothing wrong for the person and there is nothing right either. So wonderful. For the person who has a vision, Shastra is no longer applicable. Exactly. This is in so much sync with what we did in chapter 8 just now. Vedeshu yajneshu tapassu chaiva daneshu punyaphalam pradishta atyeti tat sarvamidam viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. So he says all that gives you punya pala, adrishta pala and all that. But ultimately, when you're seeking total freedom, all this actually does not have a meaning. All these lokas and everything has no existence, that becomes very frivolous. Whatever the Shastra says with reference to dharma and adharma no longer applies to the person who is above dharma and adharma. This must be clearly understood. The person is free and therefore called mukta, nitya mukta, one who is always free. This free person never goes away from me. Never again do I become remote for the person, because one can never be away from oneself. Even now, I am not away from the truth of myself, Satchit Ananda Atma. Only ignorance can keep me away, and for the person being discussed here, ignorance is gone. Therefore, wherever the person is, whatever he or she is doing, sarvatha vartamanaha api, the person remains in me, oneself alone, mai vartate. There is no moving away from me for the person who is a jivan mukta. That is, living, the person is liberated. This liberation, moksha, is the phala, the result of this vision, this knowledge of Atma. When you believe in Ishvara, he is remote. The conclusion here then is that Ishvara is not something remote from oneself. Ishvaraha na parokshaha. Paroksha is what is inferred, believed or presumed. You have a presumption that there is an Ishvara, which amounts to a belief because there is no verifiable proof. And as long as existence of Ishvara is simply a belief, Ishvara is remote, something that exists for you indirectly. That is paroksha, because it is a belief. Similarly, if you say that a tree exists, but you do not directly see it, it is paroksha. For example, by seeing smoke, you can assume there is fire, even though the fire is not directly seen by you. Any object whose existence is arrived at by you through inference is called paroksha. Indirectly known for you. Whereas anything that is sensorily perceived, anything you see, hear, smell, taste, or touch is called pratyaksha. When I hold up a piece of crystal, knowing it is crystal, it is pratyaksha for me. But for you, it will be paroksha if you do not know whether it is crystal or glass. You can infer it is a crystal until you feel the weight of it, and then you will know. The point to be understood here is what is directly perceived is called pratyaksha, and what is indirectly arrived at is called paroksha. Ishvara cannot be pratyaksha. We keep saying pratyaksha daivam, right? So Ishvara cannot be pratyaksha. If Ishvara could be directly perceived, it would mean that he is other than yourself, anatma. Like we can see the body, mind, intellect, memory, you're able to experience and see them. So therefore, they are not part of you. Similarly, if Ishvara was pratyaksha, then he should have been like one of Preeti and all of them. Ishvara cannot be anatma because he can never be an object for you. Anatma is entirely dependent upon Chaitanya Atma. If Ishvara were to become anatma, he would be mithya, and you being Atma would become Satya. Because Ishvara cannot be Atma, because Ishvara cannot be Anatma, he can never become Pratyaksha, an object of your perception. Nor can he be inferred, inference being based on perception. Still, you believe that Ishvara exists, which means Ishvara is Paroksha. The person who believes that Ishvara exists is called an Astika, one who believes. And for the Astika, there is a Pramana, a Shastra, through which he or she comes to understand, comes to believe that Ishvara exists. And because you believe, you give validity to the means of knowledge, the Shastra, even though what is said is not verifiable. Because some supporting logic is available, you accept that Ishvara exists. And this belief, this acceptance is Paroksha Jnana, indirect knowledge. Self-knowledge is immediate knowledge. I will just read this little part. There are a few paras. But the knowledge being discussed in this verse is not Paroksha Jnana. The one who has gained the knowledge of Atma is the one who has gained the knowledge of oneself. Such a person concludes, I am everything. There is nothing separate from me. Here, when the Lord says me, what is implied is pure consciousness, Chaitanya, which is Param Brahma, Satya Jnana Ananta Brahma, and everything else is dependent upon that. And this Chaitanya Ajnana, and this Satya Jnana Ananta Brahma is Atma, oneself. Because there is no difference between Ishvara, Brahman, and myself, I never become Paroksha to him. Isn't it? Nor does he become Paroksha to me. This is what we call Advaita, the non-difference, Abheda between Ishvara and the Jiva. This identity between the Jiva and the Ishvara, Jiva Ishvara Aikya, was pointed out in the previous verse also. Shankara also points out in his commentary of the previous verse that Atma never becomes Paroksha. Atma is always free, Nitya Mukta. There is no bondage for Atma because there is nothing other than oneself. Therefore, Krishna says, the person remains in me alone. Mai eva vartate. This means that one's ignorance is no longer there. There is no question of the knowledge being lost. Knowledge of oneself, Atma Jnana, is not memory based. Only knowledge that is memory based can be forgotten. Whatever you have, you can always lose. Memory is for me, Atma. Because memory is something I have, I can lose it. But here, what is known is myself alone. The self-ignorance I had before is gone, and in the wake of knowledge wherein the self is equated with Brahman. Once gained, this knowledge is never lost. Unless Atma becomes Paroksha, there is no question of the wise person being away from me, and Atma can never become Paroksha because it is Nitya Aparoksha. It is always directly known by you. Whether you are a confused person, a discriminating person, or a jnani, Atma is never Paroksha. Samsara is directly known by the person. It is not something that is inferred. It is an experience for the person and therefore Aparoksha. As a samsari ajnani, I am is Aparoksha. And as a viveki jnani also, I am is Aparoksha. Therefore, Atma is Nitya Aparoksha, always self-evident. Being Nitya Aparoksha, Atma is Nitya Mukta, always liberated. Knowledge makes the person recognize the fact of being ever liberated. This is why the person is also called Jivan Mukta. Living, the person gains the knowledge that is liberation. Once this knowledge has been gained, let the person do whatever he wants, perform Vaidika karma or not, teach or not teach. Let the person be in any stage of life and perform any action. He or she is still with me alone. Even for the sake of argument, if such a person were to commit murder, the person would not be away from me because he or she is not a doer. The next question, of course, is, could such a person commit such actions? No, says Krishna in the next verse. Wrong action is not possible for the person. So we'll see verse 32 tomorrow. We can all go through that once. So summing up this verse 30, 31, he's again talking, it's a repetition of that, the concept, the idea that was given in 29, it's coming down. It's a repetition saying, Yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati. And then the last one, the verse 31 was, Sarvabhutasthitham yomam bhajatyekattvamastitah sarvatha vartamanopi sayogi mai vartate. So in whatever way the person is, the yogi is always abiding in me. He abides in Atma. Brings us back to chapter 5, where Pashyan, Shrinvan, Sprishan, Jigran, Ashnan, Gachan, Swapan, Swashan. So whatever he is doing, he abides. So once this knowledge is gained, it is not lost. It is not something that it is not pratyaksha. Atma is not pratyaksha, because then it will be an object of perception. And we learned that anything that we perceive is anatma. So Atma is Nitya Aparoksha. It is always self-evident. And that is why he is called a Jivan Mukta, a person who realizes this. And the Shastra is not applicable anymore. And the Jiva Ishvara Aikya is what is Advaita. There is no difference. So if anyone wants to share anything, please do. Otherwise, we will close it here.
Jai Gurudev Brahmaraji. I was asking you Paroksha, Aparoksha.
pratyaksha difference. It is
Yeah.
so beautifully explained
Isn't
here.
Isn't it so beautifully given here? Pratyaksha is something that you see, that you perceive
Through the five senses.
through the five senses.
Yes.
So when we say Pratyaksha Daivam, I mean, that is from the Puranas and all it has come up, but then the Atma cannot be Pratyaksha because then it will be an object of your perception.
Correct.
Atma is you. You are that. Nitya Aparoksha, it is there.
Nitya Aparoksha.
Nitya Aparoksha.
And going into that, merging, then our own anubhuti is, then it is aparoksha anubhuti, right?
Correct. That is why there is a beautiful scripture called Aparokshanubhuti. That's a very small text apparently that talks about this.
Achha.
Drishya Viveka is one, then Aparokshanubhuti is another.
So till the time, then we are having only paroksha jnana.
Right now, all this is only jnana. We have to convert it into vijnana, make it our experience, our not just experience, recognize it.
Correct. Then it is aparoksha anubhuti.
Then it is aparokshanubhuti. And once you get that aparokshanubhuti, there is no coming back. There is no returning back to this difference that I am jiva, I am the body, mind, senses. No, he has that. Once that aparokshanubhuti is there is only one. There is only Advaita. Such a beautiful state to be in. Just imagining that itself.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll do verse 32 tomorrow. And I think that is the last verse maybe of this chapter 6. No, we have some more verses. (33) and 34. Oh, we have a lot more verses in chapter 6. Chapter 6 is really the go-to. Chapter 3, actually every chapter for that matter is beautiful. Fine. So we'll wind up here. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Gurudev.